third grade, we are going to talk about distributive property here. We are going to distribute and to find the product of 3 times 6. We can use distributive property to solve 3 times 6. When we see 3 times 6, we see 2 factors. We see a 3 and we see a 6. If we were to build an array, we know that 3 would represent the rows. It would be 3 rows and that 6 will represent how many's in each row. So there's 6 items here. So far I have 1 row of 6. Here is 2 rows of 6. And here's 3 rows of 6. Now, when I look at 3 times 6, I can use distributive property to solve this problem. Distributive property says I can break down a multiplication fact into 2 smaller facts and then add those and add those products together, and I would get the total amount that I need. So I want to ultimately find 3 times 6. So I'm going to look at these 2 numbers and say, which one could I break down into the most simple facts? So I look at my 3. And I look at 3 and I look at 6. I look at 3 because 3 can be broken down into 1 and 2. So if I was to decompose 3, I could decompose it to 1 and 2. So when we say break down, we're actually breaking down a number. It's not all about those arrays. Those arrays are just there as training wheels for us, as visuals. So we are actually just breaking apart that 3. So when we do that on the array, it looks like this. We have 1 row and then 2 rows below that. So essentially, we have made 2 separate, simpler multiplication equations. So I'm going to use parentheses to show my 2 new simple equations. So I'm going to use these parentheses to separate these new arrays I made over here, but also my 2 simple problems. So over here, let's start with what's above the line. Above the line, I have an array that shows 1 row of 6. I want you to notice something here. Where did that 1 come from? Came from over here. When I broke apart my 3, remember that 1? I just placed it over here. Look at that. What hasn't changed from my original problem? The 6, absolutely. The 6 has not changed from my original problem. Why is that? Well, the rule of distributive property states you can only break down one of those factors. Since I chose 3 to break down, that 6 stays. And you can see that displayed in our model over here, our array model. The columns have not been touched. We did not split by the columns. We did not split the columns. Therefore, we did not touch that 6 over here. So that's why you see 6 down here. All right, what's next? Well, we are going to do the bottom half of this split, which shows 2 times 6. Remember, we still have 6 columns. Where did that 2 come from? It came from when we decomposed our 3, when we broke down our 3. We split our 3. We basically just split 3 into 1 and 2. That's where that came from. You can see that displayed in our model over here in the array. So we're ready to solve because we're not done yet. Remember, we want to ultimately find the product of 3 times 6. So how do we do that? Well, we have to solve what's inside of the parentheses first. 1 times 6 is 6. 2 times 6 is 12. Now, if we add these two together, we will get our final product. 6 plus 12 is 18. 3 times 6 is 18. Let's do this again. This problem is going to be 3 times, we'll do 7. So I can model this by making 3 rows of 7. So there is 3 rows of 5, 6, and I'm going to add 7 right here. 3 rows of 7. 3 rows going straight across, 1, 2, 3, of 7. 7 in each row. Now that 3 represents the 3 rows. The 7 columns is represented by this 7 over here, or the 7 is represented by those 7 columns. So what is happening is you are identifying, you are matching the factors here with the model, our model over here. You need to identify those because you need to be able to separate what you are decomposing. So like last time, we're going to decompose this 3. We're going to break this 3. We're going to use distributive property to solve this, and we're going to split apart that 3. Why? Because we know our 2's facts and our 1's facts. We know we can split 3 into 2 and 1. We're going to do that the same way. What does that look like on the array? Just like it did before. I'm going to make 1 row of 7, meaning 1 times 7, and down below I have 2 rows of 7, which would be 2 times 7. I can show that like this. I'm going to take this 1 and plop it right there. 1 row of 7. I did not touch my 7. I only can split one factor. I cannot touch my 7. My 7 is going to come down here. It's going to be the same. I used my 1. Now I'm going to use my 2. 2 rows of 7. 1 times 7 is 7, plus 2 times 7 is 14. 7 plus 14 is 21. So the sum of those smaller products equal the total amount that I needed to solve 3 times 7. Let's look at our Schoology assignment. Okay, so we are back, and this is what you have to do for your assignment today. You have to look at each hard array, and you have to determine how it was distributed and type the equation that best represents what you see. We did this one together as a class, but I'm going to go ahead and review it with you in this video. I'm going to go ahead and erase. Actually, I'll leave that. We'll work on the second one over here. We'll work on the second one. So The hard part has already been done for you. It was all this array or this multiplication factor was already distributed. You just have to figure out what happened. So the first thing you want to do is find out what was the original problem before it was split. Number one, what was the original problem? That's what we're going to do right now. So what was the original problem? Looking at the whole array, I had 4 rows of, well, how many is in each of these rows? 5. There are 5 in each of these rows. So that's the same as saying 4 times 5. 4 times 5. 4 rows of 5. 5 in each. Now, let's check this out. What number was split here? Was it the 4 that was split, or was it the 5 that was split? We have 4 rows, 5 columns. It was the 4. The 4 was split. The 4 was split into 2 and 2 because 2 plus 2 equals 4. So instead of 4 rows of 5, this array at the top shows 2 rows of 5, which is the same as saying 2 times 5. This array at the bottom shows also 2 rows of 5. Notice how my 5 did not change. I did not split the 5. I split the 4. It was distributed as 2 times 5 plus 2 times 5. Now I know if I have to solve what's in my parentheses first. So I have to solve 2 times 5. What's 2 times 5? That's 10. I have to solve those parentheses before I can add. Okay. What's 2 times 5 here? 10. Now, the sum of 10 times 10 plus 10 will give me 4 times 5. 10 plus 10 is 20. You can check your answers, mathematicians, by counting the hearts. You know, the top part is 10. Count on from 10. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 all together, 20 here. Remember, the goal is to split it apart, to put it back together again. We want to find the total amount, just like when we typically multiply without the distributive property. We want to find the total amount. All right, I want you to complete the rest of them by yourself. I want to see how you do, okay? So remember, the first thing you want to do is identify the original problem first, and then figure out how it was split.